The fat man glanced at him before placing a simple wooden box on the table. Inside the box was a piece of red jade glowing with blood, with an old style. As soon as it was taken out, everyone felt that the hall was filled with a warm atmosphere. The eyes of Qin Gang suddenly lit up. Warnya turned around and asked Elder Qi, "Old Qi, what do you think of this jade?" Elder Qi stared for a moment and nodded. "It should be no problem. It is a bloody jade from before the Thompson dynasty, and at first glance, it can be seen that a good monk has cultivated it for a long time." Warnya nodded, then turned to ask Charlie, "What do you think of it, Mr. Charlie?" Charlie curled his mouth in disdain and said, "Fake." Old Qi snorted and scolded, "You are so young. Who gave you the courage to slander in front of so many people?" The old master Guo Ming beside Tai Lai also opened his eyes, looked, and asked, "Can I get started?" The fat man sneered disdainfully and said, "Mr. Guo, are you kidding me? You don't understand jade? Normal jade can't be passed. My piece is bloody jade from the Zhou dynasty." Guo Ming was stunned for a moment before he said, "I was abrupt." After all, he also got to the edge of the ancient jade and watched it carefully. After a while, he closed his eyes again, and after a long time, he nodded and said, "If this jade is from the Zhou dynasty, I don't know, but it adjusts the feng shui and calms the mind. It should be real." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's hearts were instantly heated. For them, it doesn't really matter what history the jade has. The important thing is what role the jade has. Old Qi smiled and said, "Old Guo is also a discerning person, not like those who are incapable and pretentious." When Warnya heard this, she couldn't help but feel a little disappointed in Charlie. It seems that he is still too young. Perhaps he has some accomplishments in the restoration of cultural relics, but he is still far behind these old people in the identification of antiques. When Charlie saw this, he just shook his head slightly. Since these people are willing to be fooled, there is no need to stop them. When the fat man saw that everyone had finished the appraisal, he closed the box and said with a smile, "Since the thing has been appraised, guys, is it time to make a price?" Before he could finish his words, Qin Gang took the lead and said, "I will pay 100 million. 130 million. Tai Lai also said. Seeing that Warnya was silent, the fat man asked, "Where is Ms. Song?" Seeing Warnya hesitated, Mr. Qi hurriedly whispered in her ear, "Miss, this is definitely a treasure. The estimated value should be around 300 million. If it can be won at 200 million, it will be a steady profit." Warnya was also a little shaken in her heart. She turned her head and glanced at Charlie, only to see that the other party looked indifferent, not sad or happy, and she couldn't help but hesitate. Old Qi glanced at Charlie with a cold look. Knowing that Warnya was affected by Charlie, she didn't ask for a price. He said, "Just now, Mr. Charlie said that this ancient jade is fake. I really want to know how he came to the conclusion. Let us also see Mr. Charlie's methods. If Charlie talks nonsense later, Warnya will naturally know that Charlie's words are false, and then she will feel relieved to bid." Others contemptuously said, "He knows what a little boy, don't be ashamed of coming up. Yes, how can it be his turn to speak here? If you don't want to buy it, don't waste everyone's time." Listening to everyone's ridicule, Charlie just stared at Old Qi with interest, and asked indifferently, "Are you sure you want me to tell?" "Of course. Just say it." Old Qi sneered and said, "I also want to see how you liars usually deceive people." Charlie shrugged and said, "I didn't really want to expose your scam, but I can't refuse you repeatedly asking for it." "A scam? Boy, you mean, did we all miss it?" Guo Ming, who had been calm, said with a sneer. Charlie glanced at him and said with a sneer, "You are the most stupid here in particular. Boy, you are looking for death." Guo Ming was furious. Charlie ignored him and said, "Jade is true jade, you liar have a conscience." Then he said, "But this jade is not a bloody jade of the Zhou dynasty, and there is no good monk who has raised it personally. It is nothing more than a piece of fine topaz from Hachan. It has a good texture, but it has some value. The price is at most 500,000. Bulls asterisk it. Can't you see that the jade is red?" Qi Lao scolded. Charlie continued. The red color is due to the erosion of the manganese ore containing submanganate. Don't you really think it was blood soaked in the corpse of some eminent monk? Then what about the warm atmosphere we feel? Chin Gang frowned and asked eagerly.